I want to feel everything for as long as I can.
Touch me. Please.
First of all, congratulations on the show. It literally just blew me away on so many levels.
Thank you.
I will say the dialogue in particular really stood out to me. Can you talk about the work that you did to both sort of establish the tone of the show, but also just the cadence and the rhythms of these characters' voices and the way they interact with each other?
I mean, that was something that in the podcast just really grabbed us from the beginning. It was just the way that these two women interact and talk, and
they have a shorthand. Yeah, like they're not trying to handhold you. You have to catch up with them. Like and get figure out what they're talking about. Like and you're like a fly on the wall.
Yeah, and that they challenge each other, but they do it with so much love. Like so that they're just constantly sort of questioning each other's reactions to things, but then immediately laughing about it. I mean, it was there in the podcast, and I think we knew we wanted that feeling for the audience in the show to just feel like you're friends with them too. You know, feel like you're there.
You want to hang out with them, and be with them.
Yeah, because it is such difficult material. So it felt like, you know, if you didn't immediately love those women and kind of want to go on that ride, it was going to be like too hard to go on that ride. So yeah, I mean, it was so fun to write. And then I think Jenny and Michelle just brought this incredible chemistry and just sort of filled in the gaps and like let it just, I think they both have really close, you know, female friends as well. And so they kind of really knew what that felt like, that those rhythms and the way that old friends talk, and just like, you know, that the people that kind of know you a little too well, I think like those conversations where it's like,
but you can just bullshit. Like you just get to the point, right? They're not going to let you do your normal thing,
right? Yeah, I feel like those looks, like sometimes it's just a look where it's like, oh, you're really doing this again, you know? That was what we wanted to capture.
The show is a love story between these two friends. And I think you also want to know right in that pilot why she's going to leave her husband and go be with her best friend and on this journey. And the moment you hear them start talking, you understand why this is different from her other relationships. Yeah. This is not how she talks to her husband. This is not how she gets to be the version of herself that she loves the most with her best friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads really well into my next question, because Michelle and Jenny do have this undeniable chemistry. So I'm curious what the casting process for them was like, because like, was there a chemistry read involved?
Yeah, there was. I mean, the wild thing was that they had never worked together before, you know, and they knew each other, I think, you know, indirectly, but it was, I mean, you really feel that they're friends. And that was a huge issue for us going in, because, you know, I think it's hard on television to believe best friendships sometimes.
And we don't have that much time. You have to get it like so quickly.
Yeah, you're just jumping in. Like, it's like, oh, you're on set, and suddenly you're like, you're playing friends that have known each other for 20 years. So yeah, Jenny read with Michelle, which was just like, you know, I mean, it was that magical casting moment where Kim and I were in the back of the room, and we were both just so moved, and
it was like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
It was also that moment where you're like, oh, it works.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, we had this hypothesis, which is always what like the scripts are until you have actors, and then you're like, oh, okay, like proof of okay, this is going to work, but we have to have these two people.
Yeah. And just I remember just feeling, I don't know, like Jenny just has this amazing quality of breaking your heart and making you laugh at the same time, you know, and she was just doing that in the room, and it was beautiful. And yeah, and Michelle, obviously it's like we going into the production of this show, you know, FX was like pretty clear with us. They were like, we have to find an actress who can like do this part because this is like a,
we will wait until we have
like, this is the part that's like, you know, this is the show, is like this actress kind of taking it on and doing it and being fearless and, you know, getting it. And Michelle was all of those things and more. And just from the beginning, like our very first conversation, she had listened to the podcast. She had listened to it multiple times. Molly's voice was just with her. It was under her skin. And, later when we were talking to her sort of about how she decided to do it, she said that she just couldn't get it out of her mind. Like she couldn't get Molly's story out of her mind. And just from that first conversation, I think we both understood that she got it. Like she got what the podcast was about, what Molly had been trying to do, what we were trying to do. And I think that was that amazing feeling of like, we can do this. We can tell this story. It's possible. And she's gonna be the person for us. And it was really an amazing meeting.
It's an amazing meeting. I'm just thinking, as you're saying, like none of the questions that she asked came from a place of fear.
No.
There was no conversation about like how, like nudity, like those, we had this later on, but that's initially like, it was just about the character. It was not like, it was just about excitement. None of it was like about, what am I wearing? Here's what I'm worried about. Here's what I'm scared about. Like she was just, which I think as I'm thinking about it now is like so amazing, really, because there's so many things that are scary about playing this role. Like
and
that
also
I would have asked if I was
so much like Molly,
Yeah.
Because Molly went into things with that sort of openness and excitement and this again,
Sense of adventure,
bravery,
really,
sense of adventure. Yeah. So, I mean, I can't say enough about our cast and those two women. Like everyone's just incredible,
I mean, yes, even the supporting characters are.
Yeah.
Oh, they're amazing.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, Sonya has to be one of my favorites.
I know.
Esco.
Yes.
So Lace saw Esco in a play and texted me, and our producer Catherine was like, I think I found Sonya. Like was just like,
that night, I like went to a play. I saw the play, and I was like, "It's Esco," and
then it was, yeah.
I mean, they're incredible, and I also really love the fact that character brings up briefly and subtly, but the fact that they're sort of in this because women are not listened to often in medicine, and Black women in particular.
Yeah.
Can you talk about sort of forming that character and wanting to address that issue? Because I feel like that's not ever talked about, and it really needs to be.
Yeah. And I'm honestly wish we could have talked about it more.
But it came up a lot in our writers' room because we had a really diverse group of writers and a lot of writers who had different experiences with cancer or chronic illness, who had been patients, who had been caretakers. And so people who had really encountered the medical system and had encountered this pattern time and time again of like, and it's also documented and written about and talked about like women, and especially women of color, not being listened to or treated differently by not all doctors, but like they're amazing doctors. I just want to know that like a lot of the times that's just the reality. And so it felt like Liz is saying, it's not like we were making a whole show about that, but we wanted to make sure that we put that in where we could. Just the reality of what it's like.
That is the also great thing about making a television show as opposed to a podcast is you can have these you can create characters that have different points of view. So going into it, we also knew that we wanted to have a younger character, a character who had these experiences with BDSM and kink and sort of thought that they were normal and a very like there was just
totally different
experience with sex. So I think that that had always been on our minds, and because there has been such generational change, I think, like around these conversations, and it was like fun to think like we get to kind of put that on screen, where we get to kind of show that different ages of people in different ages have really different attitudes towards sex these days. And I think it's like a cool thing to kind of explore and a lot, and an area for comedy too, of just like how different people see the world.
But like opening up that conversation and getting to see like, what if we all talk to each other about it? You know, which is like, I'm personally scared to talk to a lot of cool young people because I'm like so embarrassed and ashamed about what they're going to think. But like that's actually, shame is not like, we're our generation. I don't want, but like shame is a huge part, I feel like, of like for certain women, like how you grow up and how you're taught about sex and your body, everything that's wrong, everything that you should be afraid of. And I think like we are hopefully seeing some progress in how we are raising young people, especially girls and women, to think about their bodies and to think about like their agency and their ability to like advocate for themselves.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about the scene with Robbie Hoffman, who's so great in this. And I feel like that really sort of showcases that in a lot of ways. But that scene is just so intimate and tender and vulnerable and really left an impact on me. So I'm curious if you can talk about how you approach that scene in particular.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the world of BDSM was new to me, and just kind of like diving into some research about that, and reading some books about. We read this book about topping, and obviously some of it was like our writers' room, like I said, had lots of different experiences. So it was like talking to other writers that kind of had more experience with it. But what really just blew my mind was the idea of being in the moment and just like sensation, and just how powerful just simple sensation can be, and what it feels like to receive that, and then what it feels like to give it, and in a safe space. And I think it was this kind of beautiful discovery I made. I feel like working on the show was just thinking about touch, just the power of a simple touch. And so that is what that scene, I think that was the genesis of the scene, was just like, how do we show how difficult it is for Molly just to be touched, but then how her breakthrough is this small moment of just like a hand on her body, as opposed to like a whole sort of sex scene with a lot of I don't know, hoops being jumped through. It's just about touch. Yeah.
I think also,
and Robbie did such an incredible job with
Robbie was amazing, but I think also Molly's issue is so much in the beginning with feeling like she like control, wanting to feel, being afraid of feeling powerless, and equating being submissive with being powerless. And it was so exciting to us when, again, the discovery that like, oh wait, we talked to some doms like who were like, actually the submissive has all the power in that dynamic, and they can say, they control when it stops, they can say no, and like letting our character learn this concept through a very like loving, careful, thoughtful BDSM like scene play moment felt like it was doing so many things for us at the same time, and her realizing that she could have control, and she could have power, and she could also allow herself to feel things at the same time, and that there's a safe way to do it. It was also like just this idea that we, like, again, was new to us, but not new to a lot of people, but like that there's actually, it's so safe. These situations are actually almost safer because there's so much communication and boundaries are talked about. All these things that like, I think often don't happen in quote, like vanilla sex, like, so that was, I think we were really excited to put that on screen.
I loved Robbie's just like, and I love Robbie's like tough love with Michelle. Like
Robbie's version of the character was amazing.
So great, and just sort of like no bullshit, like just get over yourself and like let's just do that. Which that was a surprise.
It's like just cranky Jewish
watching Robbie audition. I was like, this is not how I pictured this character, and it's amazing. And like, I just want to watch this show.
Again, it's because we're used to seeing a version of that's like whips and chains, and somebody who like does this professionally as a professional dominatrix. And like, no, here's just a person who likes doing this, is very good at it, is experienced at it, and it can look like anything. I think that's something we really wanted to make sure we were getting across with this show is like, sex can look like a lot of different things, and there's no such thing as, quote, normal sex. And that, let's explode that idea. Let's put it somewhere else. Let's ask what feels good and what do I like, and listen, and how do I listen to my body?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I could literally talk about this with you all day. I would love to. Unfortunately, I have to wrap, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Yeah.
Congratulations. I genuinely love it.